Hobbits and goblins from Moria have been at war for hundreds of years. Today they will put this ultimate grudge to bed one way or another. Hey, how's it going? My name is Jackie Fish and welcome back to another Rise of Mordor Total War online battle. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new update for the Rise of Mordor sub-mob, which adds in new units which aren't officially part of the main Rise of Mordor mod, but it does its job to kind of fill in where the developers are still working. And of course, as you can tell by the beginning of the video, we have two brand new factions. We have kind of like, I think they're called like the East March or something along them lines, which basically represents like Bree and you know, kind of like more of the Dunedain land around that area. And of course we have the halflings, the hobbits. The hobbits have come to fight and I can't wait to see what they're made of. I'm really hoping they're going to smash in some skulls and yeah, teach the goblins a lesson or two with their hobbiton bowmen and other units. It's quite hard to tell, you know, that they are hobbits by just looking at them, but obviously when they get up to fighting other units, you'll be able to tell the size difference pretty dramatically. So that's really cool. And obviously, again, like, these aren't custom models, these are just human models which have been shrunk. I'm sure when Rise of Mordor come to doing it, they'll create kind of their own body for the hobbit, as these guys kind of do just look like smaller humans, but it's still awesome nonetheless to see them in the battle itself. And then obviously we have the goblins from Moria with some really awesome looking armor design. I really do like the shields as well. The shields look absolutely amazing, so I can't wait to see how they do deploy on this battlefield. Obviously you've got this unit as well, the awesome looking warriors right here. Yeah, they look great. Moria definitely does look absolutely amazing. I also love the skin color as well on the goblins. I think they've nailed that quite nicely to what we saw in the in the Fellowship of the Ring when they were in Moria. Yeah, I definitely do like that, especially out in the sunlight as well. You know, they would be very pale and kind of, you know, gross looking because they spend most of their time in the mountains. That they picked a very good map for as well, with a mountain in the background. That's very awesome. So yeah, today is going to be a very interesting battle. We have large numbers on either side. Wow, 14,000 soldiers on the goblin side, and then 10,000, 11,000 on the human / halfling side. So let's go ahead and get this battle started. We'll be able to see more and more of the units. So we'll start off with the Bree Gatesmen. These guys are going to be kind of like stationary guardsmen who are going to form up their quivers and I imagine unload on the goblins. Behind that we do have some Breeland men-at-arms. So again, just kind of like a stationary standard infantry that can, you know, it's not going to be heavily equipped. This is Breeland. It's not like this is like a professional army like Gondor or Isengard or something like that. But yeah, these soldiers, you know, are here to kind of guard and keep the peace. And then we do have some Chetwood merchant bodyguard as well. These dudes are wielding maces. We've actually already got a pretty big engagement over on this right-hand side as a unit of the heavy lancers from Breeland charge into these feral goblins. Oh my god, let's pause that really quickly. Feral goblins, that is absolutely awesome. Man, I really must say, the Moria faction is looking clean AF. This is a faction they've had a lot more time to work on, and it's looking great, it really is. Yeah, these feral dudes are, yeah, like brutal. So the feral goblins are just going to be chasing down the cavalry, and that's going to send this flank in full-on retreat as more men move over. The Greenway Vanguard are moving over, another cavalry charge, just ripping them down. But the thing is, these goblins just basically want to try and pin down the infantry as much as possible. Luckily, we do have these heavy-looking sword infantry, though, ready to form up and, I guess, defend that flank. But still, nonetheless, how crazy has that been? More of the feral goblins coming over. I imagine actually going to be chasing down the archers if they're not careful. There's also a small engagement over on this side as well, as the cavalry do engage against more of these goblin, what are these guys? Goblin stalkers. So he's like a stealthy unit wielding dual blades. Very cool indeed. The majority of the engagement is going on over here though, as more and more goblins do get committed. Again, we're getting some kind of, you know, weaker goblin infantry being committed. These are kind of more of the skirmisher units, but they're so cheap that I'm sure they're worth to, you know, have committed. They are going to be bringing up a little bit more of a heavier infantry now, some heavy goblin pikes, which have now been brought down. And that's going to be able to warn off the cavalry and also cause a decent amount of damage to the cavalry as it tries to pull off from the engagement. Oh, this is a nice move as well. Like I said, the feral goblins have actually managed to get on some of the Breeland archers as well and hit them hard. As more and more cavalry advances, yeah, the numbers definitely going to be the main strength of the goblins. Just being able to overrun your opponent on every single side. Silence their archer fire. Oh, that was actually a really nice hit there. And these archers are going to be volleying out, but most of their shots are going to be, finding their mark on heavily armored goblin infantry, so they're going to be able to do a decent job. And they also have some of these awesome looking dual blade sword infantry. We've already taken a look at these guys actually, and they're being the main focus of the arrow fire, so they do need to be kind of careful. Not too much going on down here, but we do have some more feral or goblin stalkers actually going to be charging in against the poor halflings, and the halflings are going to run away, flee for their lives. But these goblin stalkers are pretty goddamn fast. Oh, there's stone throws coming in. That's cool to see. So do these guys... Yeah, I think all their infantry throws stones. Baggins Private Guard. That's hilarious. Bilbo Baggins. That's so cool. I really, really like that. This is a really solid update. If you guys are looking to play battles, make sure you use this model. I'll link it down below in the description alongside Rise of Mordor. And the unit of Goblin Stalkers is going to get caught out. I'm going to be pushed them back. I wonder what's going to happen, though, when the infantry lines do meet. I imagine, the Bree infantry can probably hold their own against the heavier Goblin infantry. But what are the Hobbits going to do on this left-hand side? Are they going to be able to repel? And obviously there's numbers as well. You can see that these guys are basically stretching over their battle line. They just have so many men. And right now, the lines are going to clash. So they are going to be throwing in their infantry against the heavy, heavy front line of the Goblins. And how many men do they have in this unit? Over 200, so they have 40 more than the average sword infantry for the defenders. Or for the Forces of Good, or Breeland. I normally just call them the Forces of Good because it's easier to represent them. And yeah, there's like loads of gaps they can now exploit if they want to. Unfortunately, I imagine cavalry is going to be where they really do lack, and that's going to allow these horses, if it will jump me to someone who's actually doing something. There we go. I think that the cavalry itself is going to be like the major, disappointing thing for Moria here. Until they get trolls or something along them lines, they're going to have to really, really struggle against all of this cavalry that can just run amok and just hit a large amount of their back line and rear charge and cause them issues. Big old infantry engagement though over in the center. Both sides are now committing their front lines, and there's a swall of arrows flying in and focusing down the horses, which is such a must. I think as a Goblin player, you need to make sure that you take care of the enemy cavalry, because that's just going to cause you so many issues throughout the battle. And do we have our first Hobbit charge? We do! The Hobbits charging in bravely! Even the Hobbits are severely dwarfed by the Goblin infantry. Brave Hobbits. Wielding weird swords and, mix match some of them are wearing these weird bucket helmets. They really are not meant for fighting, but they have been rallied to the cause. The York pikemen, or the Goblin pikemen being brought up some more. There's lots of stones being thrown. I love the way that they use stones as a projectile. I think that's really cool. So they're going to be committing their entire front line against the Goblins. And I mean, the Goblins have like a decent amount of reserves back here as well. They have like a handful of infantry just ready to be deployed. And they are being routed in a few of these positions, especially over on the left-hand side against the Breeland infantry. They are being broken, but more and more men are now just being committed. However, they're going to find themselves kind of in a tricky situation here as they dive in against the enemy front line. Yeah, I definitely can't wait until they add in like a troll. Just, oh man, it's going to be so good. Just for the first troll unit, it's going to be so amazing, because it's going to give these evil factions, I think, definitely what they're lacking. Isengard is, holds its own in most combat. Mordor kind of struggles. I just think, they just need their monstrous units, and then they'll fuck. They will really do a lot of damage. And they'll kind of just, meet what their faction lacks, So more cavalry coming around, fusing the gaps very, very nicely. This is kind of what the Goblins need to be doing. But yeah, this unit of cavalry have made its way through the gap, and it's going to be able to rear charge. You can see it forming up and getting ready to charge into the back of these Goblins, and this is going to be devastating. Yeah, they go flying into the rear of this front line. That's going to do some pretty decent damage. Surprisingly, not that much. I imagine because they clumped up so heavily. Oh, wow. Yeah, this unit is taking a heavy amount of casualties. I think losing around about 40 men from that charge, or 40 goblins from that charge. And that is going to add up as the battle does continue and the front lines continue to clash. And it seems like the goblins are getting a little bit enveloped over here. And the blood reavers are going to be getting broken from the infantry coming in their side. I mean, these are, you know, pretty wealthy infantrymen, and the cavalry is going to fall back, more archers moving around. So it's even like the goblins are the ones being overrun as more cavalry comes in. Yeah, they are just struggling. When cavalry is king in a Tiller Total War, factions without it definitely do, yeah, struggle quite a lot. As the cavalry gets pulled back, luckily they managed to repel that. The Hobbit front line as well is holding the Baggins front private guard, doing a pretty decent job considering they are completely surrounded. They're actually holding off pretty well, and you can start to see that the goblin players are now bringing round their pikes to try and protect their missiles as much as possible. Another deadly cavalry charge by ripping apart the goblin bowmen. But we are starting to see breaks. Yeah, the Hobbit infantry is definitely starting to struggle, and the goblins are overlapping on this right flank, using their numbers very, very effectively. As we get another charge here by the followers of Bandoboris. And he's going to be charging in against the goblin, what are these guys? The goblin spear lurkers? They look pretty awesome. And there's also a unit of javelins back here. I imagine the goblin javies are just going to decimate units. So overall, they're being pretty successful on this right flank. Some of the center hobbits are now breaking, but I think they're going to be struggling over on this left-hand side. Yeah, with the Bree landers just crushing in. They've completely enveloped this poor unit of goblins. Hashtag goblin lives do matter. I mean, it's only a matter of time until they break. But the longer they stay here, the better, honestly. Because if they can hold this line for a decent amount of time, that'll give the rest of their front line time to move up. Because as you can see, I mean, they're breaking everywhere now, really. Yeah, the goblins are definitely struggling on this left-hand side. You can see huge breaks occurring throughout the battle. And some of these infantrymen are kind of unscathed right now. It's kind of a pretty big mess. They have managed to make some ground right here, and I imagine they'll immediately come around the flank and try and maybe hit some of these missiles. They're also doing pretty successful kind of, you know, obviously on the Hobbit front, with a large portion of the Hobbits being cut down, and as you can see, more and more of them are being broken every single second. We're getting another charge here by the Goblin Warriors into the Hobbit Archers. They'll be able to cut these guys down. They're literally wielding like walking sticks as their melee weapon. Obviously not very well equipped. Yeah, there's like mini clubs that they're using, like a mini hammer or something. But these goblins are going to have a pretty good time. And they're also attacking two units as well at the same time. The rest of the goblins have completely broken the hobbits in the center. And that's going to allow them to push on. I think they're going to quite quickly have to reform. And as you can see, the balance of power is in favor of the goblins. So even though the Brelanders have done so well over here, I don't think it's going to be enough, not at least at this point. A lot of the cavalry is also being picked apart.
Nothing remains of this unit now.
And if they lose their cavalry engagement, that's going to be, you know, pretty destructive to their winning chances. They need to have as many horses alive as possible if they plan on, you know, driving home a victory today. And yeah, you can see the hobbits are just completely broken. They're fleeing for their lives. I think you definitely would if you guys are playing this back at home. I think you guys definitely don't want to be building an army of hobbits, even though it's pretty hilarious. I think definitely just having a few kind of battalions of hobbits here and there to supplement your forces is probably going to be the way to go. So as you can see, the Hobbit forces, what remains of them, are going to be falling back to try and cause as much damage as possible. The right flank is basically broken, but the Goblins have taken heavy casualties. And then in the center, they're just cleaning up what remains. Over on this other side as well, you can see that the Goblins on the far left-hand side are basically surrounded everywhere now. There's a few pockets of resistance, but that resistance is being snuffed out fairly quickly. So it's only a matter of time until, you know, this formation is completely taken care of. But they are fighting bravely. They're fighting back to back right now. And the longer this takes, the more likely reinforcements are to come from the other side of the battlefield. So, I mean, really, these guys, you know, the longer they fight, the better they're going to be doing in this battle. So it's really important that they can at least hold firm for a little bit longer. Because it could be quite easy for the Breelanders to bring this battle back if they can just form up one dedicated line against the Goblins. And obviously all these Hobbit archers are still alive. That's another thing that the Goblins must really struggle at, is taking care of these guys, because the Goblins have no way of really chasing down the Hobbits. I love their coats as well. Just their checkered shirts are hilarious. Yeah, you know, like these guys can chase them down, but at the end of the day, there's like 6 units of archers here, all shooting at, you know, at once. It's going to do a large amount of damage to even like anything chasing them. I mean, they can just kite and run away. We do have one of the Goblin generals though here, finishing off one of the Hobbit units for Baggins' private guard. And actually managed to kill a few of these Goblins. And obviously the Goblins aren't the most skilled warriors in the world, but hey, neither are Hobbits. Oh, that brutal volley in the distance. Holy crap. Surprised they're not routing. I think they're going to now. Yeah, they're getting cut down. Did the Hobbits win? The Hobbits actually won. Wow. Oh, that wasn't their general. Okay, I thought that was the Goblin general. No. And for the most part now, they are just forming up their battle line, ready to march over against the Breelanders. Cavalry charge going in, breaking the Hobbit or the Goblin archers even. And yeah, I mean, still this unit is holding. The one behind it has broken, but I mean, it's pretty impressive that they're still keeping it. You know, just a normal unit of Goblin warriors. They're medium tier infantry, and it's keeping them at bay. You know, it's holding back the enemy, so it's doing its job. It's holding down, what, 4 units of infantry? Definitely not a bad move whatsoever. And it's giving time for the Goblins to form up. However, all the Hobbit archers have survived this, and how much they have a decent amount of ammunition left as well. So we'll have to see what role these Hobbit archers do play in this battle, because if they can get over here, they can output a lot of damage. I think it's just numbers-wise, the Goblins are looking very good. I say that, numbers are pretty close. Only around about 300 men in it, really. So, I mean, I feel like this is anyone's game. And it's really up to the Goblins to commit to this fight now, before these guys get over here. Because there's a large portion of the reinforcements still left alive there. And I think a large portion as well is going to come down to these bowmen, who once again are going to be volleying the ever-living crap onto these spearmen. But these are heavy Goblin spearmen, you know, so they can kind of take a bit more missile fire than, you know, your average unit. And they do also have that unit of cavalry back there, even though it is slightly wounded, or heavily wounded. The rocks coming in as well. Going to be very interesting to see what they do. I actually do end up engaging against this unit of Baggins' private guard, the general unit. And they're going to get immediately rear charged as well, which is going to take a big toll on this unit. It's going to bring its numbers down, probably to around about 110. Maybe even less than that. Just over that. I mean, luckily now the Goblin Spears can try and finish off the rest of the heavy Greenway Lancers. Bringing them down would be very, very beneficial to them. There is also a handful of Goblin Archers here as well. I imagine focusing down as much of these Hobbits as they can. You know, trying to bring down the remnants of the bowmen. Who are actually causing a pretty big, like, thorn in the side of the Goblin advance. And now they are pushing up. I mean, honestly, I think all they need to really do is just commit on this force, and they should be able to overrun it pretty effectively. I mean, they have the numbers, right? They have great reserves. These Hobbits are going to run out of ammunition soon. I mean, you just crush in and envelop your opponents. Like, I feel like the Goblins need to have a bit more pep in their step and just get stuck in, because they have the numbers, you know? They have the ability, and they probably have the quality at this point, considering what's left. The rest of the archers are shooting away. And yeah, a unit of Hobbit bowmen, yeah, as soon as they get engaged upon, they just get absolutely slaughtered. Like, also enveloping this general unit as well. would probably be a good idea just to help, break these archers a little bit more effectively. But with that engagement, they did manage to break, the cavalry. There's only, 3 horses left now? Yeah, 3 horses, which should die pretty quickly. A 4th comes in, but yeah, they get cut down. And now we just have this last engagement. I mean, maybe it was an honourable goblin move right there, an integrity move for the goblins to let them form up. Somehow I feel like that's not how the goblins play, but nonetheless, they allowed them to form up for this final charge. And balance of power-wise, it seems like the goblins do have the advantage, but we're going to have to see. I imagine these bowmen are also going to cause a nice amount of damage. The Hobbit left flank that held the line. And they're going to volley in. I'm surprised they're shooting archers at this point. I would imagine infantry would probably be a bit more valuable because there's so few of them. But I guess breaking them does help. It's just they only have a handful of shots left on their units. So I imagine maybe killing like these guys right here, the infantry back here would be a little bit more favourable. But they decided to kill the archers just to reduce that missile fire 100%, which you definitely can't hate on. Archers can rack up a pretty crazy amount of damage if left alone. But yeah, as you can see, the goblins just completely width the enemy formation. I'm actually going to have their infantry running through the front lines of their spearmen. Obviously, these guys are loosely formed, so they can actually do this pretty effectively. And their infantry is going to come flying through onto the front lines of Bree. And they're going to clash into the ranks and start doing some damage, start cutting them down. And I imagine the flanks will start to just completely cave in. You can see that the forces good are going to be quickly trying to reform their battle line as more and more infantry comes over, trying to use as much arrow fire as they can. And the goblins are struggling to catch up. I feel like the goblins should be have a faster stat. I imagine they're the same speed. Well, how fast are they? 45 compared to these guys who are 30. Okay, so they are faster. That's good to see. That's good to see. The goblins are just a lot faster, And, their speed has been heavily reduced, but the goblins should definitely be faster, being able to move and attack a bit more effectively. And we're getting engagements the entire way down the battle line. We have the Goblin Warrior Bodyguard. It's only at 62 kills, but it's hopefully to rack up some more on these archers. And they have more reinforcements ready to be committed as well on that side. The front line is already starting to break a little bit, and yeah, we're getting the goblins coming around and hitting the rear flanks of these goblin warriors, or hitting the rear flanks of these Breeland men-at-arms. Are the hobbits being caught yet? The hobbits are even being committed to the fight. The brave charge of the hobbits. Unfortunately, they will be getting cut down very, very quickly. Yeah, they're being broken. Even some hobbits still have ammunition left. I feel like these hobbits have done pretty decently though. 100 kills on this unit. Obviously, the hobbits are very much known for their rock throwing. I think Aragon, even in the books, quotes it, saying that the hobbits' ability to throw rocks is unmatched. Maybe it's Treebeard who notes it. I can't even remember. It's been so long since I've read the books. But seeming like all hope is lost for the good guys today, and evil will reign supreme. You've even got the Hobbit archers coming in, trying to turn the tides of battle, but unfortunately it's not going to be enough, and I think we're just going to get one big-ass rout to finish this battle. Do let me know, guys, what you think of this new update in the comments down below. I would love for more of these replays with the Hobbits, with, the Goblins of Moria and other units. It'd be really awesome. So a big shout out as well to the guys who played this battle. Keep them coming. I really am grateful for all the replays you guys have been sending me. And there you go, the big break right there. And Moria have managed to claim a victory against the Hobbits, man. So cool hearing the Hobbits and seeing them in battle. You can see that their kind of unit cards aren't done yet, but the Goblins are, which is awesome. It really, really is. So we'll start off taking a look at Canary Boy's front line and seeing what racked up the most kills. Heavy Goblin Spears, over 200 kills, and his general doing pretty good. The Feral Goblins getting not a single kill. My God, absolute trash. The Javelins of Smokey as well doing pretty decent, over 300 kills. I imagine the Goblin Javelins are going to be really, really strong. Over onto the other side of things, TZN getting some pretty nice kills, 237 7 kills on this merchant's bodyguard. And yeah, the cavalry over 700 kills, absolutely disgusting. The cavalry doing pretty decently as well on the other force as well, 500 kills, almost 600 on this one. If you guys enjoyed this, be sure to go ahead and drop a like and a comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, hit that bell notification. Be sure to go check out the mod as well. I'll leave it in a link down below in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next one.